Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Wednesday, November 7th, 2018. Little precip has been observed over the past 14 days across the Great Basin, with the exception being over the mountains of central Idaho and western Wyoming, where some above normal precipitation has occurred. But for the most part, especially over Utah and Nevada, the conditions have been dry for the last couple of weeks. This morning's satellite imagery shows a broad trough of low pressure in place over the northern tier of the United States. This puts the Great Basin under dry west to northwest flow, and temperatures are fairly cool. This dry pattern is going to stick with us for the next couple of days and even into the first part of next week, really. The ventilation rates are pretty good across much of the northern and western portions of the region today. A few areas will see some slightly gustier winds this afternoon, especially over the higher elevations of southern Nevada and southern Utah, with mixing heights not terrible, especially over portions of Nevada and eastern Utah. Cool, dry northerly flow continues into tomorrow, and we'll see those ventilation rates decreasing across Idaho and Nevada, but still being somewhat favorable over central and eastern Utah. Ventilation rates will be favorable in these areas that we're seeing the higher transport winds over southern Nevada and southwest Utah. And in those areas we'll see those higher mixing heights as well, especially over eastern Utah. Winds lighten up a bit on Friday, but we'll continue to see that dry pattern across the Great Basin, with ventilation rates decreasing region-wide. Winds really lighten up over Utah and Nevada, but we may still see some gusty winds over the mountains of central Idaho and portions of western Wyoming. Mixing heights decrease significantly over Nevada and into western Utah. Utah's forecasted clearing index is shown here for the next 3 days. Values are highest today over the mountains of central Utah. And then on Thursday, those values will increase across the south and east. But by Friday, the overall dispersion and clearing index will decrease significantly statewide. The 3-day precipitation accumulations are shown here, with virtually no precipitation expected across the region, the exception being possibly over the mountains of northern Idaho and western Wyoming. On Saturday, a little shortwave trough drops into the main trough over the northern tier of the U.S., and that will increase winds and increase the ventilation rates across the geographic area. Northerly flow picks up a bit on Sunday for continued cool, dry conditions. Ventilation rates will still remain somewhat favorable for Idaho and Utah, but may begin to decrease over Nevada. And by Monday, we'll start to see a high pressure strengthening off the California coast, which will further decrease ventilation rates across much of the region. The ridge still looks to hang around over the southern portions of the Great Basin on Tuesday, with fairly low ventilation rates region-wide. Precipitation accumulations for days 4 and 5 are shown here, really still stuck in this very dry pattern across the Great Basin, not expecting much in the way of precipitation at all through the next week or so. And the extended forecast for November 14th through the 20th doesn't change much, still looking at above normal temperatures region-wide with below normal chances for precipitation. This concludes today's smoke dispersion briefing. Please check back on Friday for the latest updates.